Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will be presenting an analysis of a fascinating design artifact, a ring tray created by Eugène Feuillâtre around 1901 in France. So now this piece is currently housed at the Victoria and Albert Museums in London. To understand this artifact fully, we need to travel back in time to the Middle Ages, an era spanning roughly around 1000 years from 476 AD to the 14th century. So, the medieval period is subdivided into three parts. The early Middle Ages from 5th to 10th centuries that characterized by population's decline and reduced trade, and then the High Middle Ages from 11th to 13th centuries that marked by urbanizations and population's growth, and then the last is a late Middle Age which conclude with significant events like the fall of Constantinople. What is particularly important for our discussions is that this era saw a Christianity, especially Catholicism, that flourished throughout Europe, leading to the constructions of magnificent cathedrals that will become canvas for extraordinary artistic expressions. Okay, so we have to move on to medieval art movements. There's a three major art periods define medieval artistic achievement, which is Byzantine, Romanesque, and Gothic. Secret art became prevalent partly due to widespread illiteracy. This visual narrative communicated and promoted biblical message to populations who couldn't read. Now let's focus on what's most relevant to our artifact, which is stained glass art. Stained glass reached its absolute peak between 1150 and 1500, when magnificent windows were created for great cathedrals. This art form involved coloring glass by adding metallic salts during manufacture, then arranging small pieces into patterns or pictures held together by strips of lead that called cames. Our knowledge of medieval stained glass techniques comes from De Diversis Artibus, a treatise written by a German monk named Theophilus in the early 20th century. So he documented the basic steps for making colored glass sheets and creating stained glass images. So usually when making this stained glass, artists use two primary methods, the muff methods and the crown methods. The process began with a design called the vidimus, or Latin for we have seen, which was scaled up and drawn onto a wooden trestle table. So, why stained glass so important? Because it serves both educational and spiritual purposes, stained glass acts as a Bible for the illiterate, using vibrant images to tell biblical stories to population who couldn't read. And then spiritually, it creates an awe-inspiring atmosphere intended to evoke the beauty of heavenly Jerusalem, bringing divine light into sacred spaces. And then we are move on to design element, which is a medieval art characteristic. So medieval art is characterized by several distinctive features: flatness, stylized figures, gold backgrounds, the use of gold leaf and halos, and symbolic representations. So the art focuses on idealized representations without realistic perspective. Importantly, medieval art was created anonymously as a form of service to a god. It was a visual tool for devotions and instructions rather than a personal expressions. Now let's examine our central artifact. Okay, this is ring tray that was created by Eugène Feuillâtre around 1901 during the Art Nouveau movement of the early 20th century. However, its method of production employs medieval stained glass techniques. So essentially, we have an Art Nouveau style product constructed using a medieval stained glass model. Tre was born in Dunkirk, northern France in 1870. He became famous for the beauty and quality of his enamel work, which he used to decorate both jewelry and decorative objects in the Art Nouveau style. Okay, let's go break down the design elements systematically. First, the outer structure or the part structure. We can see there's a three branches with silver edge that cover and hold the stained glass sections together. This is similar to medieval metalwork practice, where craftsmen use metal, either gold or silver, on the sides or frames of stained glass windows. And then there's an examples, including the book cover of the Lindau Gospel, and then the details from the Pala de Oro in the Basilica of San Marco, Venice. Second, the imagery. within the stained glass shapes. We can see several fishes and one large manfish. So Feuillâtre created this stained glass that forms with silver edge to represent an underwater scene. This design style reflects the Art Nouveau movement. The third is the color. The dominant palette includes green, blue, and brown in various tones with touches of gold and red, typical color of an underwater scene. We can conclude that this ring tray uses a combination of both, though it leans more heavily toward Art Nouveau. Finally, the techniques. Feuillâtre employed the plique-à-jour technique, also known as enameling or stained glass. The string tray used small pieces of glass arranged in waves or flowing patterns to represent a water scene. So, what can we learn from this? How can medieval design elements be applied to contemporary products? Medieval designs technique offer a significant potential for integrations into modern Notre Dame products. There is a substantial enthusiast base that demonstrates strong market appreciations for historical aesthetic and visual beauty over simplistic functionality. This aligns perfectly with the fundamental principle of jewelry and luxury products that explore the delicate balance between artistic elaborations and intrinsic aesthetic value. So that's all the material from my presentation. I apologize sincerely if I made any mistakes, especially in spelling word or sentences. Thank you for taking the time to listen to these presentations. Goodbye.